And welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin, here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's concept or conversation is about waste and the concept of waste as a human construct. And what would it look like to be in a world where such a concept did not exist? Nature has no waste. It's not part of the natural world. So I think it'll be an interesting exploration that we get to do together. Good morning, Rosalind. So good to have you here with us, and welcome to everybody else who's joining us. Before we get started, let's take a couple minutes to get present. So let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells and your organs, and bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, your molecules, your electrons, lighting you up, creating this brilliant beam of light from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together and briskly rub your hands together and feel that tension, that texture, that friction, and allow yourselves to become present to that sensation to bring you into your remarkable physical form through which you experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And hello, 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 Gia. So good to have you here with us. Welcome. So today we're talking about waste. I think we're probably all familiar with the term waste not, want not. We have been, at least here in the US, we have been indoctrinated to a throwaway society. In fact, products are designed to become obsolete, so it's planned obsolescence, where like our computers, you can't replace or you can't expand them infinitely. Your phones, after a point, you can't load software on them. Even things like vacuum cleaners and machines that you might use around the house don't have replaceable parts, or it costs more to repair something than simply to replace it and throw it away. Things are made to fall apart after a certain period of time so that people will go buy another. We talk about clothing, the whole notion of seasons and clothing for seasons and new fashion is to keep us consuming and throwing away things that are not part of the current fashion, for example. And the thing is that there's no way to throw things to. And you've probably heard no planet B, no plan B, no planet B. The chickens are coming home to roost, right? Where we are recognizing that we live on a finite planet and that there's only so much space for all the waste that we've created, and just thinking of bottled water and soft drinks and things that are in containers that are used once and thrown away, and how everything is wrapped up in plastic, and then the plastic wrapped thing is wrapped in plastic. And so we live in a throwaway society. And when we think about transforming the world, it starts with our own thinking, with our own concepts, with our own awareness. We go to the store, we buy our prepared and packaged foods, we buy our frozen foods, we buy our canned foods, we buy our foods in plastic containers, or even produce wrapped in plastic. And what happens to all of that? So the thing is, with those plastics at the moment, and I have hopes that that will change, but at the moment we don't have a technology or a process or a plan for how to incorporate that byproduct into what we call circular economy. We don't have a way of recycling it at the current moment. It is trash. It is trash. And as I said when we started out, nature doesn't have a concept of trash. Everything in nature gets recycled, and the vehicles or the mechanisms of how things get recycled is that mushrooms, mycelium, consume things, insects consume things, animals consume things, bacteria consume things. And it may be that mushrooms and bacteria offer us solutions for the issues that we currently have with plastic, but we haven't come up with a scalable solution, and we keep producing all this stuff, right? And we keep consuming it. So as consumers, we're just saying, oh, well, that's what's available. And I'm guilty of this too. That's what's available, so that's what I'll buy, rather than putting pressure on our providers to say, you know what? I'm not going to buy the stuff that you're packaging in plastic. I've seen a bunch of petitions. I think there was recently a petition for Costco, and maybe for Walmart also, to have them eliminate plastic, single-use plastic at least. But if you're buying beverages that are in plastic, or laundry detergent that's in plastic, or using plastic cups or plates or utensils, or what we get to do is we get to rethink our patterns to see what we might be able to do to eliminate or vastly reduce the trash that we generate. Something gets a stain on it, I don't know about you, but I grew up like, if it's stained, it's not good anymore. And so I'm re-educating myself. We have these ideas of, we have to wear something different every day if we're in public. This is a manufactured consumer mentality that is saying we have to have different clothes every day. We have to have shoes that match our outfit, and a belt that matches our outfit, and it's a cultivated aesthetic that we've developed. And Rosalind says models become obsolete and the company doesn't make the replacement parts when we're talking about things. My mind seems to do this. The old model works temporarily, then I have to buy into a new model. So it's interesting. We are conditioned to be buying into the new model, right? Like you got to get the newest phone. You got to get the fancy car, replace your car every 3 years, or these are habits of culture that we've been indoctrinated to in a deliberate way. We are cultivated consumers. And so we've talked a lot lately about exposing the underlying paradigms that drive our behavior, that we're unconscious of, that are kind of invisible to us. And our consumerism is one of those things that is invisible to us. I mean, I'm guilty of it as much as the next person, I think, despite trying to be conscious. There's we collect things, we buy things, we identify with things. We want something's worn out, we want something new and shiny, rather than revering something that shows signs of lots of love and care and use, because we could be cultivating that too. We could be cultivating an appreciation. It's interesting when you think about it. People go and buy jeans that are all ripped up, right? Pay money for jeans that are all ripped up, but if their regular clothes get ripped up, they get rid of them. What's up with that? We get to be looking at the aesthetic that we have been indoctrinated to. Like, if there's a person who goes to work and shows up in the same clothes every day, as long as I'm not saying dirty or smelly, I'm just saying the same clothes or similar clothes every day, then there are all kinds of judgments made about that person, right? Like, that person's at least strange, if not worse, right? And even the most sustainably minded people I know fall into these kinds of traps of, well, I'm going to a conference, I've got to have something different to wear every day. And I have to look good. And I don't have anything against looking good. I just question. I question for myself ongoingly, and when I buy things more and more, I'm buying things to last, or I'm trying to. And it's not easy because, like I said, things are designed not to last. And when they break, we tend to find, that it's cheaper, it's less expensive to throw it away than to get it fixed. So I like thrift store shopping because I like the idea of recycling things, and it's less expensive, and there's lots of variety. And anyway, I haven't gone for quite some time, but I had bought a pair of shoes at the thrift store, and they're really nice shoes. And I think I got them for like $3 or $5. And then they lost a heel, and it cost me $20 to get those shoes fixed. And so I guess the question is, how do we choose? Do we just go get another pair of $3 or $5 shoes, throw these away, or do we get them fixed? I got them fixed. I'm not saying that was the right choice. I'm just saying, how do we navigate this stuff? What changes, when we have a shift of values around waste. I guess it changes where we're willing to put our money. So for me, like one thing that I'm aware of is that our landfills, food waste is the third largest contributor to CO2 gases. At least that's my understanding, food waste. So when we throw food, I don't know if you have a garbage disposal, I don't. But then all the waste is going into our water system, and that also is having to get filtered out at some point and ends up being waste somewhere. But I pay for a composting service to take the food scraps, because then at least they can be made into compost, and that's not, I mean, it's not like I create so much waste that it's going to make a difference, but if we all did that, it would make some kind of dent, I think. Good morning, Isabel. So good to have you here with us this morning. We're talking about waste and how waste is a human construct. It doesn't exist in nature. Nature has this beautiful way of utilizing everything. And we as humans have created not only this notion of waste, but we have created a culture that enforces or propagates behaviors that result in waste. And so I wonder, I'm definitely not a minimalist, but I know some people who are, and I've actually interviewed somebody for the Sustainability Now podcast who's a minimalist, and I think there's a minimalist challenge to have, I forget how many pieces, maybe 37 pieces of clothing, including ornamentation, like, including jewelry, for instance, and to just have those pieces of clothing, and that's it, including underwear, including, like everything. 30, I forget what number it was, but it was like 30 something. So Rosalind says, for a regional solution, the challenge is who pays for the capital cost to build the disposal facility? Well, I think that that's an interesting question. If you have a community that is aware and alert, like for composting. So see, the thing is, it's not just about a disposal facility, because we don't have ways that are environmentally viable to dispose of the waste that we're creating. What they do is they burn plastic. Well, that's pretty darn toxic. That's not a viable solution. Right. So the truth is, right now, there's not a scaled solution. I mean, I've heard of certain versions of mycelium, from mushrooms that will eat plastic. And that may be a solution, but I don't know how scalable it is. And we have tons and tons and tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of plastic. And, people are touting a green solution is to find ways to convert the PET into clothing, for example. Well, it's petrochemical stuff. You want to be wearing clothing that's made out of petrochemicals. You don't want your skin being subjected to those chemicals all the time. I don't think that they can get denatured. recycling plastic into other plastic things, great, you know, but the thing is, we've got to stop producing the plastic. We have enough plastic to recycle to make everything we could ever need to make. I heard that there's another technology that converts plastic back into oil. Plastic's made by petrochemical, from petrochemicals. So I had heard that there was some kind of process that converted plastic back into oil, so it could be used as fuel, or it could be used to make more plastic. I mean, what the fossil fuel industry is doing right now, seeing the writing on the wall about people not wanting to use gas and oil, is that they're doubling down in a big way on plastic production, and they're lobbying to be able to create more plastic because they want to keep pumping, because they want to keep making gas and oil. Good morning, Sue. How great to have you here with us this morning. So Sue says, our garbage service offers composting, and that makes it easy to compost. Cutting back on plastic is a challenge, but worth the effort. 100%. Cutting back on waste of all sorts, and most of it is plastic, is a challenge, and 100% worth the effort. Now, here's something that just blew my mind, right? We think that, okay, we'll make a solution to the petrochemical plastics is that we'll make bioplastics, right? So what did I do? Trying to be a conscientious citizen, I went and bought compostable garbage bags that I could use in my compost bin to put the compost in. Well, turns out the composter won't take the compostable bags because there's some kind of mechanical process and the bags get all tangled up. So the compostable bags are no good for compost, which is kind of ironic, right? We don't have the facilities, we don't have the technology that is a wholesome technology. And this is why solutions often create bigger problems. And that's why we get to look at the bigger picture, to look more deeply, to see, you know, we would think, oh, we've got all this waste. The solution to the waste is to find a way to process the waste. That's part of a bigger thing. And if we're processing the waste by burning it, that's creating a big problem in and of itself, right? So Isabel says, culture habits have to change in USA. I agree. I know they have to change globally, but absolutely in the USA. I see every day people using at home paper and plastic dinnerware as glasses. Insane, right? Why? Because they just don't want to have to wash the dishes. So they feed their laziness of not having dishes to put in dishwasher and put away. Right. Exactly. It's ridiculous. I never saw this as a daily habit as here in this country. This is an example that changing behavior could change results. Exactly. Let's say I'm having a party. What am I going to do? I'll go buy plastic, not even just paper plates and cups. I'm going to buy plastic plates and cups and utensils, because it's a whole lot easier to have all that plastic for a party than to have the dishes that need to be washed. I don't have a dishwasher. I'm the dishwasher. So it was funny. My goddaughter at one time, a long time ago, was at my house. She said, "Where's the dishwasher?" I said, "Right here, I'm the dishwasher." She said, "No, really, where's the dishwasher?" It's like, no, really, there is no dishwasher, you know? Um, and that's another thing, like running a dishwasher with 2 dishes in it or something. I don't know. A dishwasher doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me because I'm the only one making the dishes, and I would always rinse them really well before putting them in the dishwasher anyway. So I might as well just wash them. At least that's my perspective. Although I've heard that if there are a lot of dishes, that it can be more economical to run the dishwasher, maybe in terms of water. As far as water and combined electricity, I have no idea. It's just when we start questioning, it's crazy time, right? The way that we live, it's really crazy time. And I see, I'm not saying I'm above the fray, you know, I see it in myself as well. Like just think, how insane is it that we use clean water to poop and pee in when there's potentially a water shortage going to happen? I mean, what kind of craziness is that? It's nuts, right? We could be having, if we changed our culture, we could be having composting toilets. You know, we could be having like as a standard thing. You know, we could be having our waste actually be something that could nourish the earth. And there are technologies that allow us to transform poop and pee into potable water and soil amendment that fertilizes the soil. But we get to change our aesthetic, because heaven forbid I would drink something that might have originated from urine, from water from my body, right? I mean, we'd have to, that technology does filter out and clear all the drugs and toxins and chemicals, and neutralizes, makes really pure water. But we get to re-educate our thinking. So anyway, I could go on. I could. And the bottom line is, let's look at what we throw away, and what we not just what we throw away, but what we buy that gets thrown away. You know, buying the prepared foods that have containers that get thrown away, and realize that with the prepared foods, we're just seeing the smallest fraction. The waste that we're throwing away is just the smallest fraction, because there's tremendous amount of waste in the production process. You know, when we talk about food waste, a big part of the food waste is industrial food waste that is busy cutting the potatoes into the right, you know, the French fries into the right configuration, or, you know, cutting things up to fit in a can. Thousands and thousands of tons of food waste to get rid of the produce that doesn't fit our idea of what that produce should look like. It's crazy, crazy. So Rosalind says medical ER room results in a lot of waste, right? Absolutely. All these single use, throw away, everything packaged in plastic. Crazy, 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 crazy. Unnecessary. There are solutions. There are ways that we can be working around that. In fact, mushrooms are being used to grow packaging that replaces styrofoam, and it's totally compostable. because it's mycelium. You know, right now it's expensive because it's not pervasive. But how about that? I mean, all these things are possible. So Isabel says it's an endless topic, unfortunately. We have to start by awakening from the hypnosis and get ready for the globalism. Get rid of the globalism first. Time over for all of them to program our minds and lives, then start fresh from there. So I agree with you. What we get to do is start waking up. What we get to do is start looking critically at our behaviors, at what is assumed, at what we take for granted. I mean, if you walk through the grocery store, holy moly, it's plastic up and down, top to bottom, everywhere. You know, so what if we start choosing products that are packaged in glass? I mean, it used to be that everything was in glass and glass was really being recycled. Now they don't even recycle glass so much because there's not enough of it to be having the big recycling process. And it's high energy. You know, I think it's a trade-off, but glass can be used and reused. You know, so it used to be milk would be delivered in glass bottles and you'd return the bottles and they'd get refilled. And there are companies that are trying to do this now with plastic containers, which is insane. And I understand that the plastic containers weigh less. So when you're traveling them, you know, it's less fuel probably. But if we get into a more economical kind of, or a more ecological, economical fuel, then we'll be okay. Dido says also there are forever chemicals in a lot of food packaging. There are attempts now to end this. Yes, Dido, 100%. And when we talk about forever chemicals, these are chemicals that get into not only into the products, but they get into our bodies and they stay in our bodies. And we wonder why we're sick. You know, why people have these chronic conditions all the time. We're poisoning ourselves on so many levels and just willingly poisoning ourselves using silver foil, you know, aluminum foil. Aluminum is linked to Alzheimer's. You know, using saran wrap, boiling things in plastic, you know, getting a pouch and boiling it in there. Well, there are chemicals that get released when you boil something in plastic, right? I read something about how much plastic we've all eaten in the course of a year, and it's just insane. Isabel says, yes, plastic and sugar food. So they keep us all sick. Well, they don't get to do that without our complicity, without us being complicit. You know, so we get to, you know, the sugar foods or sugars and fats, it's all prepared foods. So when we start cutting down, at least cutting down, if not stopping with the prepared foods, then we eliminate a bunch of waste in the waste stream. And we also take better care of our bodies typically, right? Because we're not putting all those chemicals into it. Hopefully we're replacing that stuff with wholesome food. If we were to slow down enough to prepare food, I mean, I get the convenience of being able to pop something into the microwave. I don't own a microwave, but or into the air fryer or onto the stove. You know, I get the convenience aspect because we're all so busy running all the time, doing all kinds of things. But what if we actually attended to our food? And yeah, I could go on and on. Anyway, so I'm just going to wrap it up for this morning. And I so appreciate your engagement and really your awareness You know, it starts with us. That, you know, our consumer habits can change the market. I mean, just look at organic food and the demand for organic food, and how it's prevalent now, how we can find it pretty much anywhere. I mean, Costco, Walmart, yeah, you know, like big box stores have organic food now. Why? Because there was a consumer demand for it. So we do have an influence. We do have some lobbying power. And our biggest lobbying power is our dollars and how we choose to spend our money. So anyway, that's it. I'll get off my soapbox for this morning, but I'll be back. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live each weekday morning here on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and Enlightened World Network YouTube channel. And I encourage you to check out the other awesome programming on EWN One with the Earth, Enlightened World Living. And to all of you, so much gratitude and appreciation. And until next time, I hope to see you back here again really, really soon.